I love horror movies. It's a genre that made me want to get into filmmaking, and I'm sure that experience is mutual with a lot of filmmakers. Between George Romero's Dead series, Halloween, The Exorcist, even 1408, I've always had a deep love and respect for this genre that the mainstream just doesn't seem to have. Whenever there is a mainstream horror flick, it always seems very tongue-in-cheek and self-aware. Now, there's nothing completely wrong with that. Scream was very on the nose with its parody of the genre, and I consider it to be one of the best slashers ever made. New Nightmare, Tucker and Dale, and Shaun of the Dead are all fun movies that poke fun at horror cliches while also doing their own thing. But sometimes that doesn't make for a great horror movie.
Are you even listening to me?
Oh, Cabin in the Woods. I thought you were so cool when I was 50 and haven't seen many other horror movies. And that's kind of who this movie's made for, people who aren't super into these kinds of films. Now, I'm not saying you're an idiot if you like this movie. I can see the appeal. I think the creature designs are a lot of fun, and the concept of the evil organization is really interesting. But this movie is not as clever as it likes to think it is. At least it's not as smart as how most viewers make it out to be. Now, I have nothing against satirical films. Last Action Hero is one of my favorite action movies, and it does the same thing for that genre, which Cabin in the Woods does for the horror genre. The problem is that this movie came out 15 years too late, and it's not really an interesting movie beyond its premise. This movie pokes fun at horror cliches that not only were parodied by Scream and every other horror movie between that time frame, but they were also no longer relevant by 2011. My buddy Will brought this up to me. The horror genre has made plenty of new cliches and tropes as of recent years, and this movie kind of just ignores them. There's no poking fun at found footage films, there's no making fun of the overuse of jump scares. Even films like Saw and Hostel don't get made fun of. Instead, Cabin in the Woods wants to make fun of the same old 80s horror movies like Friday the 13th and Evil Dead. Now I will say this, that would be fine. It really would be. But this movie itself has nothing new to say and ultimately becomes the very thing it's parodying. A by-the-numbers teen slasher flick that doesn't do anything unique until the final act. And I can think of plenty of better options. Friday the 13th was very by-the-numbers, but it more than made up with it with its final act and its plot twist. So this bears the question, is Cabin in the Woods overrated? Yes. It's a by-the-numbers movie that thinks it's a lot smarter than it actually is when it's doing the exact same shtick that other horror movies have been doing for more than a decade. Now, does that make Cabin in the Woods a bad movie? Not necessarily. Like I said, there are highlights. I love the creature design in this flick. Sure, the coolest monsters only show up for the final act, and the monster we focus on the most isn't really all that interesting. But you can see all the love that went into their designs. Behind the scenes show that there's a healthy mixture of practical and digital effects in this film, and I highly recommend you look into it. I also found the sacrificial explanation pretty interesting too. It pokes fun at character cliches in ways I actually kind of enjoy. And that's not enough to save the rest of the movie, and it still goes to my point that this film kind of holds on to those older cliches. But I do find the scenes within the organization a lot of fun. I feel like if the film centered more on those characters, it would be a lot more interesting. I also think this movie could have been a great opportunity to make fun of how meta horror movies have become. Instead of making commentary on how cliche these movies can be, Cabin ends up being just like the rest. Having a film set within this organization could have been an opportunity to show how discussing cliches has in of itself become a cliche. It's not just in horror movies, but it's just much more prominent within that genre. Now, that's just my 2 cents. There are still good things about this movie. The acting's pretty solid, the effects and creature designs look amazing, and the sacrificial ideas are actually pretty unique to this film. And I also really do love the organization. That may not be enough to save Cabin for me, but give it a watch for yourself. See what you think. I may not love this movie, but that doesn't mean you won't. Oh, and also, Joss Whedon 100% ripped off The Little White Trip.